Hello everyone, this is Kilva here, and today we're going to have a showcase for the Power Song Expert event boss. So if you haven't already beaten it, well, there's only 15 hours left. I have posted a guide for the Expert event boss, and I do recommend following the team setups for that. This particular showcase though is going to be on a Miku comp. So I know I mentioned this in the guide before, and so I wanted to showcase the comp to show that it is possible to beat it with a Miku team. And I did encounter some hiccups while using this team. So with this team setup, the way you see it now, I was able to get the boss down to 150k at the end of turn 7, meaning that I was unable to clear it as is with my current investment in the team. So as you might know, we recently got an update today, actually, depending on your time zone, could have been yesterday, but we got an update within the past 12 hours or so, where our level cap was raised from 90 to 120 for units. So if you raise it past 90, I'm sure you'll be able to clear it perfectly fine. However, that's not the point of this showcase. We want to compare this team with the previous team comps that we mentioned. So the previous team comps that we used to beat it that were probably better would be, let me see if I can find it here. Here we go. So this team is pretty good, and it works for clearing this boss. So QSH, Gawain, Agent Ace, and then you use Musashi or Longinus. Both are great. So with the Miku setup, if I replace our welfare Hatsune Miku, the buffer one that we get at 1 star, if I replace her with Gawain, I can clear it perfectly fine as well. But it still takes me 6 to 7 turns to clear it, so it is still below the performance of the meta teams. If you replace Mirai Miku and instead use Agent Ace, you can also clear perfectly fine. So the weakness here is that this team has added additional survivability, but the damage output isn't quite as high. So with this team setup, never had any issues with any units possibly dying. So with the previous setup, Gawain usually died or somebody else died. With Mirai Miku, it's pretty much, you know, it won't happen because you have a really good healer on the team. Now, what I'm going to try in this particular showcase run is I'm going to swap the QSH for a QSH with a MLB Charisma featuring Charisma, and because that would increase the amount of physical defense debuff as well as increase the physical attack boost that QSH gets, I think that might be enough to push this team into being able to clear it. Again, this is a showcase and I don't recommend using this build, but you know, at this point, hopefully you have already beaten the boss using a more meta comp. So I'm going to borrow one of my team members, QSH, with Force or MLB Charisma featuring Charisma. So I'm going to replace mine with that one, and then let's just see if this works. Hopefully it works, but you know, with RNG sometimes you don't quite output as much damage as you should. So turn 1, pretty standard setup, you know, you just use all QSH's debuff skills. Mirai Miku, I use skill 1, which is a all-team physical attack buff. For Mirai Miku, you can use her skill 2, which increases the panel length as well as gives you special defense based on the number of panels she eats up. And then for Snow Miku, you can just use her skill 1, which converts one of the panels and increases her panel appearance. Now, the reason why we don't use skill 2 is because Snow Miku's passive requires her to have used one skill that turn. So you read here the passive info skill, HP has to be above 70% and active skill used in order to have the crash skill damage bonus of 31% active. So we split up those skills in order to maximize her output to have more uptime of that passive skill. And so that's also another reason why I didn't use Miku's skill 2 here, which is increasing the chance of panels appearing more frequently, because one, Snow Miku already has it on her skill 1, and 2, we're going to be using this on QSH on turn 2, where we buff him using Snow Miku's skill 2. So this just allows us to maximize our damage output, right? So always your goal is to try to crash as many panels as possible and as many units as possible, because every damage counts. And then the most important skills to always crash will be Snow Miku as well as QSH, because QSH is a debuff on his skill. Let's do that. So normally when I was playing this before, you know, hopefully I'm getting like at least 600,000 damage per turn, because you have 7 turns. And then one of our turns is going to have like 200,000 damage, because QSH's debuff wears off. So this is another disadvantage of using Mirai Miku, because you don't have a second debuffer to have that uptime of defense debuff. So now I'm using all those buffs, Miku's S2 and both Miku's S2 on QSH. And there we go. Use this time boost. So my damage output is a little bit weak there. Now, after your units have taken some damage, you can heal Miku, who is being targeted. So I think this is going to be a really tight in terms of damage again. Let's see here. So my physical defense down from QSH's skill is down, and it comes back up next turn. I'm going to hold off on using Snow Miku's skill 1 because she doesn't have any green panels to convert, and also the damage output this turn is going to be really low since we don't have that debuff. So we're just going to play through it regularly and do our best to stack up crash panels. So normally you should be trying to aim for about 150 to 200k on that turn. Usually I do about 150k. Now QSH's skill is back up, so we can use that. And then we can use time boosting skill. And we can heal Miku again. Keep her healthy. And now we can use Snow Miku's skill 1. Panel. Okay, and the next turn we can use Snow Miku's skill 2 to buff QSH. And yeah, as you can see, my damage output is not high enough, so I don't think I can do it. I'm gonna try my best. Alright, so I don't think I can do it. Yeah, this is definitely not a not good. Try my best. Alright, so that didn't work. So now I'm gonna try another thing, since that unit is now unavailable to be borrowed, I believe. Yes. So that QSH is now gone permanently. So now I'm gonna try to borrow, see if there's a Mirai Miku with a better strongest pair. So yes, there is one Mirai Miku with a better strongest pair. So this is a MLB strongest pair. So this one increases the physical defense, or well, decreases physical defense of the enemy by 20%, versus if it's 0 UB, it is at 11.6%. So I'm not sure that's really gonna make a difference, but since I'm here, I'm just gonna try it anyways. And if this doesn't work, I'm just gonna go back to Gawain instead of Miku as our buffer. And that should be enough to kill. Nope, not doing that. Try to get everybody transferred. I have enough time. So yeah, that damage output is really low. That's pretty good round. Yep, 720. So I think the most damage I've ever seen you do with a Miku team was like 800,000, which is really, really good actually. Or good for me. Okay, so that's the last power damage turn. And that was a pretty good round too, 700,000. I may actually clear this round if the damage output remains high. So last time because of RNG I didn't use that skill 1, but maybe I should have used it and that would have made a difference in the damage output. Because I delayed using Snow Miku's skill 1 by 1 turn. Okay, so I did 150,000 damage, which is about right for that turn, but usually it's better if you can do like 200 or even more. More is always better. Because on that turn, if you notice, I wasn't able to crash any of my other units' skills. That's really lackluster turn. Let's see. Okay, so my damage output went down a lot that turn. Now that I think about it, there's no HP condition on this. Okay, so for some reason I thought the HP had to be above 70% or something, but I think that was Snow Miku. Yeah, Snow Miku needs to be above 70%. So maybe that's actually what's been holding me back. When Snow Miku's HP dips below 70%, I haven't been outputting the extra crash skill damage. I'll have to pay attention to that in Alright, can't beat it again. 815 left. Won't be able to do it. But we can try. We'll use this to boost up the skill levels. Really nice trick there. Yep, so I'm short 290k. So I wasn't able to beat it again. Now I'm gonna use Gawain instead, because I don't think I have any other units that I can possibly borrow that still uses a Miku comp. So I'm gonna slot in Gawain and replace Miku. And this should work. At least the last time I tried it, it did. And nothing special here. It's basically the same as the previous runs, except now we're using Gawain to buff Snow Miku.
よくやった。チャンスよ。3、2、1、今よ。ここよ。2人よ。まだまだ。
This team comp should work. So now you guys know that Gawain and New Year's Musashi are really critical units for physical attack and special attack teams respectively, because they single-handedly they just make teams work because their buffs are so high. It's a lot of additional damage boost. Yeah, the damage output is just so much higher when it puts away. So now getting 5,000. Good. Yeah, so just unless I really screw up the last 2 turns. Alright, so this finishes in 6 turns. And if you remember, the Musashi and Longinus team using Agent Ace instead of Mirai Miku clears in about 5 turns for me. So I'm willing to bet that if we instead replace Mirai Miku and we use Agent Ace, this team should also clear in 5 turns, because Agent Ace does a significant amount of damage as well. The difference is that with Mirai Miku using the strongest pair world memory is decent and gives your team a lot more survivability. So that's the pros and cons of it. It's a little bit unfortunate that I wasn't able to clear it with Miku. I'm willing to bet that if I had more invested world memories, then I'd be able to clear it with a Miku Team Comp for this challenge. But the reality is the Meta Team comps that were presented before in the previous guide are just better than this Miku team. So usable, but definitely not the most meta. And that's just because Gawain is, you know, an S tier buffer. Miku is an A tier buffer, maybe even A+. She's basically the best buffer after Gawain. Snow Miku is also a really strong attacker, so she is good and worth using. But Mirai Miku is very niche. Usually we just don't use healers that often. So if you for some reason are a whale or something and you have 4 MLB copies of the strongest pair, so you can stack that defense debuff on these to up to 80%, then you know you could possibly use her somewhere and maybe even cheese some content. We see a lot of that in Arena right now, where people are running multiple copies of the strongest pair and basically AoE bursting people down in Arena. But for most people who don't have those kinds of world memories, it's not really that viable. So anyways, hope this showcase was somewhat interesting and shows us that, you know, how important Gawain's buffs are. But this has been Kilva. It's been fun and looking forward to the next update. See you guys in the next video.